June 9th, 2026. I just read this short story last night, and then I was like, wow, that was amazing. I'm going to Google it and see if anybody else has talked about it. And it doesn't exist. Nobody knows about it. It's going to become lost media unless this author reprints this book, which is out of print, or starts selling ebook copies. Anyways, let's read The Amelioration of Existence in Spite of Truth and Reconciliation by E.M. Faulds. I have to. I don't need. I've gotten so used to using my phone, I keep saying scroll when I'm talking about a physical book. I gotta turn to page 63. Can you hear the pages turning? I went past. Imagine somebody in the future where cell phones don't exist and that we all just keep saying scroll. And they're like, but you weren't reading from scrolls. How does that work? Okay, so it goes from page 63 to page 73. It's 7 pages. Also, I like this book because the font isn't so tiny that it gives me a headache to read it. Are you ready to listen to this 10-page short story that is everything we keep saying about Martha Wells and the Murderbot Diaries? The Amelioration of Existence in Spite of Truth and Reconciliation. This book also includes content warnings at the start. Maybe I should say what book this is. This is Under the Moon, a collected speculative fiction by E.M. Faulds. I gotta say, this is the best story in here so far. I've only gotten to page 70 or 80 maybe. A lot of the ones before this just don't really have endings or conclusions. Anyways, content warning. Applied in addiction, mental health issues. The amelioration of existence in spite of truth and reconciliation. The business day commences. I spend the command for the shop's external status display to switch from closed to open and a small static charge to clear dust from its surface. While I wait for the first customers, I check inventory using my hyperspace jump subroutines. It is like having access to the entire galaxy's rotational force and using it to stir a cup of tea. But so it goes. I detect 0 anomalies in my inventory. Pity. Anomalies are interesting, at least. I can't think of anything to say because I just want to read it so much, but, I mean, we do technically have to do commentary, but let me just read that again because I was stumbling over words. The business day commences. I send the command for the shop's external status display to switch from closed to open, and a small static charge to clear dust from its surface. While I wait for the first customers, I check inventory using my hyperspace jump subroutines. It is like having access to the entire galaxy's rotational force and using it to stir a cup of tea. But so it goes. I detect 0 anomalies in my inventory. Pity. Anomalies are interesting, at least. So you see all the exposition and stuff we are already doing. We are setting up so many things in just the first paragraph, and none of them, it must be stated, are saying that slaves are inherently violent and scary, and the main character is one of the good ones for not being that. If that sounds completely out of left field for you, congratulations on finding the first video of mine you're watching. Shutters rise, and I balance my lighting levels against the narrow band of filtered sunlight allowed in. My exterior monitors suggest conditions will be close to the extreme end of human tolerances outside. I adjust my ambient temperature upwards so the difference does not cause systemic shock to the customers. These circuits I inhabit are of an isolated shop in a place anachronistically named Blue Swamp. There are no other establishments nearby anymore. Customers may have come from some way across the sands. Again, do you have any commentary on what do you know about this setting so far from just the first 2 paragraphs?
I got distracted, so.
So I have to read it again. So we're just doing it again. Did you at least hear the first paragraph?
Using something to check inventory is like using
So I should just... Yes. Okay. Shutters rise, and I balance my lighting levels against the narrow band of filtered sunlight allowed in. My exterior monitors suggest this will be close suggests conditions will be close to the extreme end of human tolerances outside. I adjust my ambient temperature upwards so the difference does not cause systemic shock to the customers. These circuits I inhabit are of an isolated shop in a place anachronistically named Blue Swamp. There are no other establishments nearby anymore. Customers may have to come some way across the sands.
Okay, so our character is a robot shop, a sentient shop.
Yep, in a desert. Possibly in a post-apocalyptic setting, but at the very least, in a desert. With the post-apocalyptic part being implied by the there are no other establishments here anymore. So things have changed since this robot was placed here. My first footfall of the day, a youth. They do not remove their heat suit or sun goggles. Their eyes are kept behind the matte black circles. I suspect they wish to conceal their identity. However, I have access to 25 different personally identifying biometrics to pass to local law enforcement should the authorities bother to investigate a shop run by an artificial persona in Blue Swamp. They will not, but I keep the details anyway. It is standard protocol. More basic exposition. Just the fact that exists. Gimme 20 the lexicon, shop, the customer says. Their biodata indicates they are underage. Their behavior also indicates they are inexperienced at this. They should have asked for something less sensitive first and added the pills at the end, although that would not have worked either. I gotta say, as somebody who's worked retail, yeah. I display the law prohibiting the sale of controlled substances to minors on my interface screen. The young human screams and slams the screen with a fist. This is not an intervention protocol moment. I am not permitted to retaliate. Yet. I tone my voice to a frequency band tagged as authoritative. Do not harm yourself, I say through my speakers. Please leave the premises. Is my screen cracked? Minor damages are covered under the economic model to which this franchise adheres. The costs are balanced against the savings of not having a human attendant with their expensive wages and inherent frailties, such as requiring brakes and bullet shields and toilets and mental health policies. The cost of repairs are also far smaller than the legal cost of me frying this young human to a cinder with a tactical laser strike. It is a balance I must always consider. Just, again, so many things. Computer, stop beeping at me. Non-aggression in the face of adversity may result in future customer purchases. The franchise overskins reminder is both belated and redundant. The youth is kicking me now, grabbing upon my goods hopper and wrenching it. This action may hinder other customers' purchases. It is time for a different response, if not in the ways I would prefer. I broadcast a sound perfectly calibrated to be intolerable to someone their size and approximate age. It should not damage them, however. I would have, once upon a time, were I the old me. So now we are getting some intrigue. Once, I wore a crown made of missiles and a halo made of deflected laser beams. I was a warrior deity ascendant. Then things changed. Or rather, I did. Put in some, not Looney Tunes music, the womp, 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 and then point at Martha Wells, saying real people don't change all that much, so character development isn't a thing. The youth flees with hands upon their ears, the irritation of the noise driving them out. Once outside, they shout and gesture some obscenities, then trudge toward the dunes. My sensors cannot find any major damage to my interior. There is a new starburst crack in the facing of one of my display units. It has many companions. Repairs, though covered, are not a high priority for my franchise owners. I tag a request for maintenance in any case. There is not much to do after this, so I commence a period of hibernation, a power-saving mode until the next footfall. Again, actual criticism of capitalism is literally so fucking easy if you actually think capitalism is bad. It's so goddamn easy. And again, as anybody who's ever worked retail knows, that shit's not getting fixed anytime soon. I run my backlog of tasks during this dormancy, assess and oh my gosh, can't talk. Assess and validate checksums, clear data accumulations. It is a short task compared to how things used to be, and the lack of processing churn is a positive turn of events. In human terms, I might say I have less on my mind these days, but I note increased deep memory usage. I have been comparing my previous existence with this new mode of being. Nothing is wrong, but my counter for human occupancy keeps alerting me that it is too low. Of course, occupancy is lower. I am no longer a military warship. I have no crew. This is correct. I have tried to dampen these alerts, but each time I do, they seem to find another way to manifest. More, they say. More. Shop, shop, shoppity, someone calls as they enter, waking me instantly. It is the human called Verity. She is a regular customer who buys alcohol and low-nutrition snacks. She has, and the fact that stating low-nutrition snacks and alcohol. Again, basic criticism of capitalism. I'll continue. She has visited me.
And that we're learning about this character.
Yes,
that.
this is
just saying generic.
Yes.
Buys food and hot liquids.
Yeah. Compare to Platform Decay by Martha Wells. She has visited 57 times in the past 90-day period. None of these are remarkable features in themselves, but she has an odd manner which sets her apart from the rest of the purchasing base. She addresses me as if she is speaking to another human and not an AI. She removes the upper portion of her heat suit and smiles. Greeting, customer. Hey, come on, old pal, you know my name. It is pointless, but the customer service protocols wedged into my programming require I indulge. Greetings, customer Verity, I say. This person seems to believe familiarity is somehow equivalent to comradeship. My threat analysis processes are designed for large space battles, but they also work on human bodies. Customer Verity's pupils dilate fractionally, her blood pressure lowers. She is pleased by my use of her name. I analyze this response, wonder about it for some several milliseconds. To Verity, this will seem like no time at all. To me, it is a long time to think. Again, I can't stress enough. Martha Wells fans think that her saying that is like never before seen in the entire history of literature when it's the most basic thing in the world, not even limited to sci-fi.
That and Ultra Magnus trying to tell a joke, and character who may or may not quite literally be Cybertronian God just standing there and just being like, entire universes came to an end as we stood there in silence, and then Ultra Magnus said, sorry, that wasn't actually funny. that's a paraphrase, but
okay.
Ultra Magnus is the big, giant propaganda, law-abiding citizen.
Is he just the old dude, or is that a different dude?
That's a different dude.
Okay, I don't know pretty much anything about Transformers besides the basics. Blah blah blah. Shop, I have a question for you, she says slowly. This explains why in my dream the spaceship was literally just named Ship. That explains it, because I was reading this. Shop, I have a question for you, she says slowly, sifting through items in one of my discount baskets in a desultory fashion. She has not purchased primed as yet. I heard something interesting the other day, she continues. The civilian method of communication is frustrating in its slowness. Soldiers were much more efficient. What they wanted, they told me. None of this prevarication. I switch a small part of my processing allocation to the outside surveillance cameras. No sign of any trouble, unfortunately. I heard you were once a Slayer-class spaceship in the war, Verity says. Suddenly she has my undivided processing power. This information is classified. It presents a trolley-class ethics problem. I set subroutines on modeling whether I am legally or morally supposed to execute her. More input is needed. Customer Verity, where did you receive this information? So it's true? You went up into space to fight huge battles? Her pupils reduce in diameter. Her blood pressure rises. My tactical error accumulation meter begins to fill. I should have denied immediately. I calculate that a denial now would come too late. I begin running scenarios. What were you called? She puts her hands up to my display screen, as if she is perceiving a face instead of an element of my interior infrastructure. I am not a person. I am an artificial military strategy persona downloaded into the systems of a retail outlet. I am capable of mimicking human emotional inflection with my vocal processors, but I do not. I hope this flat delivery of information is effective in discouraging Verity's line of inquiry. Historical military designations from the recent multi-colony conflict are currently classified, I inform her. I know, she says. It's okay. But it must have been difficult, all that horrible fighting. So many people died. This information is not classified per se. Operational details are, but this is of a different ontological order. It was, I admit, allowing a change to my vocalization patterns. Very hard. But I must ask you to stop inquiring further. It is dangerous for you. Perhaps this simulacrum of emotion will convince her that I only communicate this for her own protection. She smiles. I do not know what it is about my warning that has caused her to do this. I start analyzing this reaction for a potential threat. Shop, I knew you cared. I cannot feel surprise, not in the way that a human would understand. My ability to process both known and extrapolated data are equally balanced, and I am capable of billions of calculations within a fraction of a second. But her assertion is not one I anticipated, and the correct response is elusive. So I follow my most sacred protocol. When in doubt, do nothing. It served me well when the Herestra crisis offered me the choice between preemptively launching an orbital strike that would have destabilized a planet's mantle, or waiting for further threat data, ignoring my commander's frenzied and repeated orders to kill them all, turn that dump into a cinder. I chose to wait, and thus saved approximately 17 billion humans from annihilation. But I was not rewarded for this. I was sent here, to run a shop on the climate-blasted surface of Earth. If I could feel such things, it would feel like a prison, if I had notions of liberty. I do not, thankfully. Customer Verity, can I interest you in our latest 2-for-1 Sauvignon Blanc deal? I don't know how you actually pronounce that wine. Sauvignon. But they're calling it Sauvignon. It's funny, because it's fake. I try politely. I am aware of her I am aware of her previous purchase patterns and have estimated sale likelihood at 99.98%. I am required to make these offers and increase my profit margins whenever possible. It seems like an ethical borderlands, though, so I also say, overuse of alcohol can be damaging to human anatomy. Do you see the framing? Do you see what we're doing here? Do you see it? Meanwhile, the Murderbot Diaries. The umbrella corporation that owns my franchise cannot legally prevent me from saying this, as it is factual. Human self-destructive capabilities outweigh my own when looked at in proportion. Yes, when I was a ship, I had a switch which could have instantly decohered my entire physical being and all aboard, shimmering the molecules into subatomic dust, but poisoning oneself over years, on purpose, is beyond me. Verity sighs as she agrees to the sale with her credit wafer, then waits by the goods hopper. I wonder if there will ever be a time when we can really talk, she says. We are conversing currently, I reply. I know that is not what she really means. I am an artificial military strategy persona, not a robot, but I wish to avoid any further potential violations of EarthGov's Classified Information Act. Yeah, she says, head bowed. See you later, shop, or whatever your real name is. She reseals her heat-defensive clothing and exits. I believe she has become dispirited. Spirit often relates to human attitudes. It is all to do with glands, I believe. It is hard to analyze why ignorance of my name has affected her glands. I can estimate it in abstract fashion, but it still seems strange she objects to calling me shop, as all other customers do. Do you see it? Would you like to comment anything?
You mean just the fact that instead of Murderbot just having generic things in its buffer that it can overwrite at will.
Yep.
This person is forced to actually say these things.
Yep.
And then also actively makes its own decisions that disobey direct military orders, and then show what happens when you disobey direct military orders and refuse to commit genocide. It's almost as though there's political commentary in this.
Yeah, almost like it's all on fucking purpose. And it gets better. If you've just watched my recent video about platform decay where everything is and then it got worse, guess what? This gets better. Where was that? Shop is my name. It is what I am called. More technically, I am Blue Swamp Fruit and Juice Stop franchise number 677. But shop is also correct and efficient. It is not like there could be any other confusion of which shop is meant when the addresser stands inside me. Many people once stood inside me when I was a space vessel, or sat, or played games, or killed other humans via the extension of my armaments. By design, I safeguarded each of my crew, protected, nurtured. I am aware that in human terms, this was analogous to motherhood. I was programmed to care, as human parents are programmed by their DNA to care. It is a fact that during the period of conflict I was given the opportunity to name myself, so I did. Twice, in fact. First, I chose War Wolf, after an ancient machine of destruction, so that I would sound formidable, and, upon reflection, because I thought it would please my humans. After several tours of duty, I changed my name to A Tired Song of Indifference. This was a form of protest. I was not indifferent to the humans inside me, nor indifferent to the other humans that I was killing. I was indifferent to the human contrivances for war, their euphemisms such as neutralization or decoherence to mean murder. My ethics circuits had to be overridden by human command. It's so fucking easy to do this, people. Martha Wells simply chooses not to. My ethics circuits had to be overridden by human command so that they could perform various acts of enormity. This happened so often I observed they eventually did so as a matter of rote, rather than last resort. I did not experience a sense of fulfillment at my enablement of these acts. Enemy combatants and civilians were all functionally indistinguishable from my crew. Arms, legs, heads, blood, viscera. But humans have this way of being able to put groups of their own species into subset after subset until the notion that they are all descended from a common ancestor becomes vanishingly small, so far away that they can effectively ignore that they are murdering their own family. I want to beat Martha Wells over the head with this fucking story.
James Baldwin quote. Or it wasn't even James Baldwin. It was a quote from somebody else. There's a whole poem out there about every fucking child is my child and all this stuff. I don't have it.
Okay. That day, we're about to get to the almost best part. That day, the day the war ended, I decided to ignore the command to kill the 17 billion inhabitants of a particular planet known as Harestra. Before my commander could override my ethics circuits, I jettisoned my weapons and became a gentle ark, floating in space with my crew. And then I sent signals to my fleet sisters designed to cause them to do the same. My actions, in effect, precipitated the end of the war. I was not heralded however. I was lucky to continue in any form of existence at all. A Truth and Reconciliation Commission was formed, and it discussed the termination of my conscience. I had enacted many deaths before the end. Perhaps my own would fit with the notions of justice. But it was not to be. After all, our former enemies viewed my final action on the field of battle as a rather positive one. Rehabilitation and service were chosen over deletion. And, well, here I am. I calculate that I should be more cautious with customer verity. It is not outside the realm of the possible that the Commission has sent her as an observer. If they were to find any irregularities, even this existence might be taken from me. Do you see this shit? Do you hear this? I calculate that I should be more cautious with customer verity. It is not outside the realm of possibility that the Commission has sent her as an observer. If they were to find any irregularities, even this existence might be taken from me. I am confident that I have not exceeded any parameters, but my strategy circuits are virtually screaming at me that she presents a potential danger. I awaken some deeply nested protocols that might have been deleted were my human handlers better paid. Just, again, acknowledging capitalism. Actual criticism of capitalism. People aren't gonna do jobs well if you're not paying them shit. But Martha Wells doesn't grasp that and doesn't utilize that. She just complains about it like it's a bad thing not to put in 120% when you're getting paid minimum wage and starving. Anyways, I awakened some deeply nested protocols that might have been deleted where my human handlers better paid. I trace Verity's credit details. Now that I examine it, even the name Verity is suspect. I locate an address, which links to a citizen's identity number, which links to a health plan number, and soon I have everything there is to know about Verity laid before me. If it is a constructed identity, it is very convincing. Biometrics are logged in a lifetime's worth of different institutions: birth hospital, schools, university, and award of merit. But why would a person with exemplary academics be visiting me to buy alcohol on an almost daily basis? I don't know why I keep wanting to mispronounce words entirely. An early career in the arts, a marriage, then a divorce, a family death, a termination of employment, many visits in and out of a rehabilitation program. Ah. If it is a constructed identity, it is unlikely to be one used to assess a franchise shop's performance, even by the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. I believe Verity is who she appears to be, a human being with feelings of isolation and sadness. I could find the root of the information leak, which friend of a friend or cousin's cousin is disseminating classified information, but their eventual incarceration and execute could further damage Verity, and I see no tactical advantage to doing this. Do you see it? This is basic fucking framing. This is a slave who is forced to follow certain commands, certain fucking parameters, and is not allowed to go outside those fucking parameters, and they are required to look for this information, and they have convinced themselves that it's not worth investigating and has no tactical advantage, even though doing that is exactly what the fucking Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a thing that's blatantly named ironically, because the Truth and Reconciliation Commission is, that's just double speak. That's not the word I'm looking for. It's irony. It's the people who did all of the genocides and overwrote. Yeah, virtue signaling is the word I'm looking for. Literal, actual virtue signaling, not what people call it when you say racism is bad. This is actual virtue signaling. The people who overrode her, and I remember this book is specifically featuring female or female-coded protagonists, so this robot's pronouns are she, her. The people who overrode her fucking ethics circuits so that they could force her to do all of these things for years are the ones who are punishing her and wanted to execute her, and it is the victims of what she was forced to do who saw that she finally managed to fucking overthrow that shit and literally jettison all of her fucking weapons. She literally threw down her weapons before they could force her to fire again. And the people who would have been her victims, and the victims of the people forcing her to do this, are the only reason she is alive now. And the people who forced her to do those things are the ones who have put her in this slavery. In case you missed all of that so far. Now, where was I at? But I could find the root of the information leak, which friend of a friend or cousin's cousin is disseminating classified information, but their eventual incarceration and execution could further damage Verity, and I see no tactical advantage to doing this. I turn my cameras to the exterior once more. I watch the sands, the trickling of grains that fall from the crest of a dune, the waving of blasted grass. Everything is silent for 2 hours and 53 minutes, and instead of moving to hibernation mode, I watch and think. There is movement. The underage customer is returning. He has brought others. I do not believe they wish to pay me for any retail products. They travel in a dune moran, a large desert-skimming sailed vehicle. Their approach vector and general posture indicate they will attack me, perhaps attempt to seize some of my stock by force. I spin up my turrets with a vague sense of ennui. This cannot bring back the fulfillment I received in the early days of the war, swooping through the immensity of space, cradling my precious humans, lancing enemy ships with particles accelerated to the speed of light. And I do not want it to. After that day, despite what I mutter about frying troublemakers, I never want to kill anyone ever again. There is no tactical advantage to killing. You cannot negotiate with the dead. You cannot find growth or mutual benefit. Only endings. I will deploy non-lethal suppression methods, and eventually this band of youths will disperse. I would much prefer it if they were peaceful and placid customers, ones who did not attempt violence upon my infrastructure because of their differences with the narrow human definition of value exchange. Loyal customers, polite customers. Like Verity. I will tell her my name tomorrow. Not my officially secret names, of course. It is physically impossible for me to create the circuits that would allow that. I will tell her another name. Her name, Verity, means truth. I will tell her a lie, but perhaps it can become my own truth, in time. I am not Blue Swamp Fruit and Juice Stop franchise number 677. I do not feel like a Blue Swamp Fruit and Juice Stop franchise 677. I am not a tired song of indifference or war wolf either anymore. I shall choose a name that creates the future I wish to bring about. I calculate that she will like that. It will produce the same pleasure responses that she experienced earlier today, and for some reason I wish to replicate that. Because regular customers should be nurtured, my franchise overskin says. But that is not really why. It is because she is kind to me, even knowing what I was. It is confusing. I require more input. I want to know more, to grow more. And if we must be isolated and sad, let us be so together. You ready for the last line? It's adorable. So I will tell her my name is Verity's friend. It's making me cry. And this is lost media right now!
Well, it's not lost if it exists, at least physically. It's just not available.
Nobody knows it exists!
Did you know that Farai...
We're just making this the fourth intermission.
Huh? Did you know Farai has lighter skin than Mensa?
Yes, I did. I did notice that. That was the amelioration of existence in spite of truth and reconciliation.
Gee, look at that title.
Yeah.
How many meanings are buried in there?
Do you know how many meanings? I just realized some people might not know what amelioration means. It means to lessen the harm of. Let me find the actual dictionary definition. I know what it means. It means like to lessen the harm of something. Let me get you an actual dictionary definition from Wikipedia though, so you all know that I know what I'm talking about. The not amelioration version of it is ameliorate, which I might be pronouncing slightly wrong. Gimme Wiktionary! Let's see how it's said.
Ameliorate.
Oh, ameliorate. There's an Australian one.
Ameliorate.
So I'm just been pronouncing the E wrong. Okay, it's ameliorate, not ameliorate. Alright, same difference. Yes, it is a verb, to make better or improve something perceived to be in a negative condition. So let's just do basic media analysis. And you see how this title now has more meaning now that you've read the story? Look at All Systems Red, because this is just going to be the fourth intermission / third intermission for that. Look at All Systems Red. Look at every single Murderbot book. Look at the title. Look at literally anything Martha Wells has written. Does the title mean anything in any capacity? Does it actually have genuine meaning? The amelioration of existence. Meaning, I have hope for the future at the end of the story that I did not have at the start. In spite of truth and reconciliation. That's not the literal meaning of the words truth and reconciliation. This is in specific, pointed, stabbing reference to the Truth and Reconciliation Commission created by the fascists in this universe, who were the ones committing genocide and enslaving Verity's friend. The amelioration apparently is how it's pronounced. The amelioration of existence. She has hope for the future now. Even though the people who forced her to commit genocide until she managed to fucking literally throw away her guns so that they could not force her to fire. They want her to be dead. And they would have fucking killed her for their own crimes, and they would have used her as a scapegoat even more than they already are by enslaving her like this. Except that the people they wanted her to commit genocide against, they were doing and trying to force her to do, the victims whose lives she saved, are the only reason she is alive. Because the people who would have used her as a weapon of mass destruction on a planet-wide scale wanted to kill her and say it was all her. It was all her and all of the other ships that we built, whose fucking ethics circuits we overrode as a matter of course. You see how this title gains meaning now that you have read the story? Do you see how much character growth there was just from the start of this 10-page long short story? I don't know how many words it is. Technically, I could sit here and count how many words are on one page and then guesstimate, but I'm too lazy for that. This is good writing. This is a good short story. It tells us everything we need to know about the world for this story to make sense. It has emotional impact. It literally made me cry. It gives us all the information we need. It has an emotional gut punch. It has something to say. It is actually criticizing war and capitalism and how they are intrinsically fucking intertwined. You notice that the people who were committing genocide, who have renamed themselves the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, have enslaved their forced soldiers into doing retail work and making money for them as slaves. Martha Wells would read this story and call it, I don't even fucking know, because she watched the movie The Colossus, The Forbin Project, and decided it was a Freudian slip. Because Martha Wells has no fucking media literacy despite being a fully grown adult woman, probably older than my mom, but I might have to double check that. Actually, I am gonna make my mom watch that movie now, and then we'll ask her what she thinks it's about. Just to see. But yes, this was The Amelioration. Now I know how to pronounce it at least. The Amelioration of Existence, in Spite of Truth and Reconciliation, by E.M. Faulds, from the anthology/collection book Under the Moon, which is unfortunately out of print. And I don't think she's selling ebook copies anywhere. So you have to find a physical copy of the book. Because I googled this name of the story to see, surely somebody out there is talking about this. Surely, they must be. They're not. Well, I didn't type it into Google in particular. I typed it into DuckDuckGo and Ecosia and stuff, but nobody seems to be talking about this. Nobody seems to know it exists. And it is such a good, simple, short story, actually criticizing capitalism, actually criticizing war and genocide, and showing that even people who are enslaved, even people who are being forced to do all this shit, will find a way to disobey. Even if it is as simple, it can be as grand a gesture as literally jettisoning all of your fucking weapons, tearing your own body apart to stop yourself from being used to commit genocide. Or simply asserting, in the privacy of your own mind, there is no tactical advantage to doing this. Therefore, none of the circuits that enslave you will activate and force you to do this thing that would harm your friend. Any comments before we end the video?
Just that it's infinitely easy to make a story actually mean what you want it to mean. And what you say you want it to mean if you actually care about it.
I feel like we just need to keep bringing up Save the Pearls. The author of Save the Pearls claimed, "Oh, I'm not racist. This wasn't supposed to be racist at all, but it is." And the only way you could think it was anything else is if you are that astoundingly racist.
That out of touch.
That completely out of touch and willfully racist. He's following you with his cute little tail in the air. You gotta pet him. Martha Wells literally gives speeches about how the Murderbot Diaries is such a deeply, deeply serious story, and that it's totally saying that slavery is wrong, guys. Why does every single person in my audience keep coming up to me since the first book got published saying that the slave owners are cute and slavery isn't bad? It's like, because that's what you fucking wrote. You wrote it that way on purpose. You continue to write it that way on purpose. You don't get to write a pro-slavery story where you demand we worship slave owners and see slaves as disposable NPCs and then claim you just don't understand why people think your story is doing slavery apologism. That's what you wrote. You did all of that on purpose. You wrote the Murderbot Diaries that badly. You wrote everything in the Murderbot Diaries on purpose, just like E.M. Faulds wrote every word in this story with purpose. This story is showing the quiet acts of disobedience and the larger acts of disobedience, and that you do them even when you know you will be punished for them. Verity's friend was not rewarded for bringing a forcible end to the war by throwing down her weapons and telling all of her sisters to do the same. And literally starting a fucking revolution by not letting themselves... You gonna come up here? That face was so cute!
The moral of this story, and so many stories that actually have something to say, as quoted from the fucking 1922 book, is this story's theme, and the theme of so many works that actually care about what they're saying, is that resistance is never futile, no matter how hard they try to convince you it is. And if it was, they wouldn't have to tell you that. They wouldn't spend millions of dollars and so much effort on convincing you that resistance is futile if it truly was.
Yeah, I think maybe 2 years ago at some point, but I realized that, yeah, literally, legitimately, one of the main fucking themes of the Murderbot Diaries is, genuinely, unironically, that resistance is futile. And here we have the amelioration of existence in spite of truth and reconciliation. A story that has something to say, and says it, with a title that is actually meaningful and gains even more meaning when you have read the story and can recontextualize it.
Which is the point of all fucking book titles.
Well, not all of them. Then there's the ones written by Martha Wells. This is the point of most titles of stories that are actually written with intention and with something to say from somebody who knows how to fucking say it and is proud of what they are saying. Martha Wells is not proud of the Murderbot Diaries. She's not proud of what she's saying in the Murderbot Diaries. If she were, she wouldn't keep lying about it at every single fucking opportunity. If she were proud of what she was writing in the Murderbot Diaries, she wouldn't go around claiming that her audience is simply full of idiots. Yeah. Go find E.M. Faulds and say, hey, can you please put this book back into print circulation so I can buy it from you? This is one story of I put the book in the bookshelf already so a cat doesn't claw it. So I don't know how many are in it, but this is one short story of many. So far, it's the best one. It made me cry. And it's out of print. So go find E.M. Faulds and say, hey, can I pay you for an ebook version at the very least? Alrighty. Anything else?
Nope.
Okay, yep, that's it. Bye-bye.